No mai haere mai e te whānau. Welcome to the Flight of the Next podcast. My name's Holly. I'm on Gadigal land in Sydney. The only other person with me today is Erin in Tamakimakoto, Auckland. Alex is working on his exams. Good luck to Alex on that count. We are here to chat the men versus Mariners. That was yesterday. Our time that was away at Central Coast Stadium. A good turnout for the little corner of yellow in the away bay. It was a little bit humid and warm, but it wasn't terrible. It wasn't what you get like in the height of summer. 1-1 draw, goals from Eze and Sabit Noor. I think we had a fantastic first half. In the second half, we just sort of run out of puff, especially at the end, and we weren't making the best decisions. Especially towards the end where we had LBS and Piper and Eze all up front making runs, just play those long balls. And it wasn't happening, which was quite frustrating. But we really should have won this game. I think XG 0.55 to 2.33, shots 9 to 22, on target are 2 to 8. I think Redmayne was absolutely player of the match with 7 saves. Absolutely incredible. Yep, in the 4th minute is a goal. Reefs makes this massive switch to Schwan Loke, who plays a cutback like off the line. Rokonchi gets to it first. Redmayne parries that, and Eze just the man on the spot. Sabit Noor, 52nd minute, gets a goal. How did you feel watching it? It felt like a game of two halves, even though I don't think it's completely correct to call it two halves. But the second was just not as good.
Yeah, I think I'll agree with that. By the time I got my Chromecast casting, we were picking the ball up out of the back of the net for their first goal, which happened to be offside, which thankfully that high press is still a little bit nervous sometimes, but I guess it worked that time. And then, I closed my eyes and the next second we're scoring early, which is fantastic to see. I think getting up early in these games is going to be really beneficial for us, because if we're going to play kind of that high line and stopping teams getting those opportunities to score, then scoring early just kind of makes it a bit easier for us. Looking at the squad, the back line is just so young. It's kind of scary looking at it that we're going into these games with a pretty green and pretty young backline, but I think they did really well. Zhang Loke in particular coming in for Tim Payne, I think he's been pretty good. Being called up, I think he's really stepped up and is playing that position quite well. I think it's quite unfortunate that we did have 2 early subs to make because we had 2 early injuries, and we also have about 5 of our main squad out as well coming into this game. So you think that kind of injury list, you'd want to probably go into the game being like, oh yeah, a draw's probably a pretty good result. But I think coming out of the game, the draw is disappointing. It's something that we probably should have won. We had the opportunities to win, but yeah, Redmayne has just found peak form in this game and absolutely kept us sight in it. So I think that, we probably should have got the win, but I guess, yeah, we'll take the draw. We haven't lost yet so far this season, and, hopefully that gives us confidence coming in, because we have kind of played some pretty, easier teams in the grand scheme of things at the start of the season. So hopefully that kind of has put us into some form going into some of these harder games, especially the derby next week.
Yeah, unfortunately, Ishiga coming off with a knee injury, a left knee injury. I asked Reeves at the end of the game if he had any update, and he said they just didn't know. I really hope that he is not going to be out or out for long, because he is really key. In fact, he hit the post very, very close on that free kick. The one he scored last season was a little bit further out, so there was a bit more time to get it sort of around. But as soon as that free kick was given away in that spot, like in the away bay, we're just chanting for Ishiga to take it. So close, but 10 minutes later, he's had to come off because he's injured. There was quite a bit of frustration for us about the reffing in this game. Now, I don't like to shit on refs or anything like that, because they have a very hard job. But I mean, Mariners committed 10 fouls, and there was only 1 card that was given the whole game, and that was to a Mariners player for dissent right at the end of the game. There was one point at which it seemed like one of their players hit Nagasawa in the face. And I mean, we were shocked that Eze wasn't sent off last week. And again, it's the second time that someone seems to have been just like intentionally smashed in the face, and there were no consequences. So I feel like that made it really difficult, that they realized that they could just foul the shit out of us and there would be no consequences. What was your take on that?
Yeah, it's super interesting. It's kind of 2 weeks in a row where kind of blatant, I guess, violent conduct is what they would call it. Hasn't really been given a red card, where I think in previous seasons you probably would have seen that, even if it's minimal contact, you still can't swing out and retaliate like that. Eze should have been a red. I think Harrison Steele should have been a red. I don't know if this has kind of set the precedent now going forward as to what is going to be allowed, but especially going into a game like next week, you don't want to see that kind of behavior go unpunished, because it will get messy, it'll get ugly, and it'll just kind of make it a bit of a hard watch, I think. So unsure what's happening, unsure if that's kind of been, I think sometimes they have these meetings pre-season and let the refs know what they are and aren't allowed to allow. And maybe they've just decided that you can punch people this season without any consequence. But yeah, just 2 in a row without any kind of VAR look is a bit interesting to me.
For sure. I mean, presumably VAR do look, but the fact that you're not even getting the ref called over to view it and make a decision themselves is we'll see as it progresses. But I mean, that was really early on and would have made a huge difference to the game. It is what it is, unfortunately, and it doesn't seem like either of those players have been injured. They've walked away from it just fine. Another talking point, I feel like, is Anaru Cassidy gets a debut. He was sort of so unexpected in the squad. It looked like that he did not even have a shirt with his name on his back. He played the entire game in a 50 shirt with no name on it. I hope that next time he does actually have a shirt with a name in it. I think he did pretty well. I think he was initially, when he came on, he was kind of taking up where Ishige was, and I think he did well, but it's quite difficult to take that on. He was then a sub who was subbed off, because I imagine that the planned sub at the time that Piper came on would have been Ishige, so he didn't even play the rest of the game. But I think he did pretty well. Did you have any thinks about that?
Yeah, I thought he looked fine. I don't think he looked out of place at all, especially as someone who probably wasn't expecting to come on that early or even maybe come on at all. But yeah, he looked pretty solid, and I think his shirt was potentially too big for him. It was tucked in, but it still looked super baggy, so he looked a little bit goofy, especially with the kit looking so hideous that weekend. But yeah, I thought he looked pretty decent. He looked solid on the ball. He was pretty confident playing the ball, holding on to it, and making the right passes. So yeah, it's kind of good to see these young guys get the chance. Unfortunate circumstances, obviously, with an injury, but yeah, it gives them the good opportunity to prove themselves. And I don't think that he came on and did anything that was a red flag. So yeah, good on him.
For sure, we love to see it. And that young backline, I mean, James was out with a quad strain or something like that, which was a really big loss, because he is that, it seems to be at least, that anchoring point in quite a young defence. So it was Isaac Hughes who was running that line, and we didn't get it right every time. We were fortunate that generally it was either offside or they missed it, or it was collected, or something like that. I know that Josh had to come out a couple of times to clear the ball. I noticed that they were quick to target Lucas Kelly-Hill being a little bit slower. Sabit Noor started on the left side, and then after a very short period of time, he was switched over to the right just to try and target. I mean, Lucas is great, but he's not as agile as some of the smaller players. And I feel like at times he had struggled a little bit, but because we've got 3 in there, I think it was generally, it was manageable, if not great. Any other talking points for the game?
Yeah, I just think I want to draw attention to Josh Oloyemi this game. I think that he really stepped it up this game. He was making some high claims, which I feel like in the past, when he's kind of come up for those ones, he's either dropped it or fumbled it or been knocked over. But he looked really sharp and confident on it this time, and which is kind of good to see when you have this newish backline together, and you have James out. To him kind of step up and be able to do that, I think is a really good sign. And I think at one point he almost got an assist. He kicked the ball down from his hands, and it got to Eze, I believe, and he almost just, hit it into the goal. And so that would have been a great moment. But yeah, I think that he was just really on another level today, which is good to see. Not really much he could do for that goal, because it kind of deflected a bit funny. He probably wasn't really expecting it to be there. But other than that, yeah, I think that was probably one of his better games for us.
For sure, he was actually really not that busy. I think he made 1 save maybe, and then the other shot on target went into the back of the net. And then there were those claims, and a couple of times he came out from the box. So it's great to see that confidence on him. And it's just crazy how many like shots we actually put up. Remember, like not that long ago, we had a Melbourne victory game and we didn't get like a single shot on target the whole game. I mean, the fact that we put up 22 shots and it was really just that Redmayne had an absolute cracker. So a disappointment in the long run, especially not the choice to play those really long balls that we had willing runners for right at the end of the game. Otherwise, it was performance-wise really, really good in so many ways. Let's chat next game. So Saturday the 8th at Sky Stadium, we've got a double header. We have, first of all, the women. They play Canberra in the Capital Clash at 4 p.m. New Zealand time. Canberra lost to the Jets, I think 2-1 on the weekend. Now, I know we haven't really seen much of the women, but we'll start with that because that's the first game. How are you feeling about that? I think we can beat Canberra. It'll be really interesting to see how we go when it's like finally time, like crunch time. These are the matches that matter.
Yeah, I think we have a good chance of beating Canberra. I did watch a bit of that game. The Newcastle Jets, or the Kiwi Jets, were looking pretty sharp. They've got Charlotte Lancaster up top, who I always rated as a player. And so it's good to see that she's back in the A-League. But yeah, for Canberra, I think if you maybe mark out Michelle Heyman, what are they going to do? What's their backup plan? And I think that we should be able to beat them. I think we've got good results with them in the past. Our head-to-heads pretty good with us, I think. And so hopefully, yeah, we start the season off with a win. I don't think we've done that before in the history of the Knicks women, starting off with a win. So to kind of get the ball rolling from game one, I think will really, really do us favours. So I think that we can get a win from this and yeah, get the season off.
I mean, I think the big thing I'd like to recommend to people is if you're showing up for the Auckland match, show up early. Show up in time to watch at least some of the women's match because it's going to be really exciting this season. And circle back to the men, that is the second game, 7 p.m. Jaffa FC have had 2 wins and a draw. They are top of the table. Maybe the biggest talking point out of their camp is Hiroki Sakai is injured and is, although to be fair, Chiefy played tricks last season and saying that our captain couldn't play and then he wound up on the team sheet. So maybe Corrick has also just taken a page out of Chiefy's book, but potentially he is not playing, which is a massive loss for them.
Yeah, we know it's going to be a tough game. We know that, they're a good team. They're pretty much the same squad as they were last year. So, it's going to be tough. And we're pretty under-strengthed at the moment with the players we have out. Not sure who's going to be coming back into the squad. Don't know if Ishige's going to be there. Don't know if James is going to be there. So it's going to be a tough game. And I really hope that, they can come out and perform well in the first derby.
I think that's the big one. And we actually performed quite well in that first derby, I felt like, and then just had slip-ups at the end. So hopefully if we can finally get a win out of this, I mean, even if we just get a draw, look, Auckland's a good team and we potentially have a lot of really good players out. We just want a good performance and a good effort. And I know that the sales of tickets have been sort of down on the first derby. Of course they are because it's lost not new anymore. Do head along, whether you're Jaffa FC fan, whether you're Wellington fan, whether you're a neutral, do go along and try to turn up early enough to catch a lot of the women's game, that is. We'll chat Ferns just briefly. They had their final match on Thursday against the USA. Loss, it was absolutely comprehensive. Possession 82 to 18%, shots 34 to 3. One of their players scored a hat trick. It was absolutely being outclassed. Lara Wall did get a debut. That was something that was a massive plus from that game, and she didn't look out of place. But is it really worth playing opposition that you're going to be pummeled by, or are we better off just focusing on opposition more like Mexico, where we have a chance to do something?
I think the Mexico games were a really good test for us. They're only a few places above us in the FIFA rankings. Not that I really believe the FIFA rankings mean anything. They're kind of a crock of shit, to be honest. But at least people closer to us to get us good time on the ball, to gel as a team, to figure out combinations and what works, who works where, who works well together. I'm playing a team like the USA, and it wasn't even like a full strength USA team. It was that they'd put in it's probably a bit of a random lineup, to be honest. They put in a bunch of kind of this bench players and maybe even some of the reserved players, and we still got thrashed. So, yeah, I don't know how much we can really learn from a game where we have 18% of the possession. We're playing 5 at the back, I guess, trying to just stop goals from being scored, and we still let in 6. It's I don't I think after the match, Michael Mann was talking about how he kind of got what he wanted out of the tour. He saw what he wanted to see. There were some good learnings, but I'm just not convinced. I don't know if it gives the players confidence if you're losing 6-0. Don't really think it gives the fans much to write home about. We haven't played a game in New Zealand for who knows how long. We're not going to be playing a game in New Zealand until the Oceania finals, which is, played in New Zealand, but we haven't made those finals yet. I guess we're just assuming we aren't going to make it. But yeah, I think that it's just disappointing to, see this New Zealand team come together every couple of months and play a team and just kind of get smashed and go home again. I don't think we learn much from it. I'm not a coach though, so perhaps I'm not saying the right thing, but I guess what I did learn from it is that Mackenzie Barry and Lara Wall are the best defenders in the country.
Mac was incredible. Very much just like player of the match for us. But we know that about Mac already. I'm a little bit more on the fence about these. I think we probably want to mostly target games where, like we had against Mexico, even like Australia and ones like that, ones where we've got like a bit of a chance. There is something to be said about copping a thrashing. It's not great for morale overall, and I know fans hate it, but being able to scramble your defence is really something. We faced 34 shots and they scored 6. All right, so it's still... They scored a lot, but they put up 34 shots. And just managing to get in blocks and put in a lot of good saves. So there's something to be said about really putting yourself, like playing the odd game that is beyond your sort of level where you're going to learn the most, but actually getting that sense of like, this is how we defend when we are under the pump. So I don't know, guys, let us know in the comments.
Yeah, I think for us though, what I haven't seen from this New Zealand squad is our goal scoring ability. I don't think we score many goals, and I think playing teams where we're focusing on defense is I don't know if that's what we need from this. I think we need to test our front line. We need to test how we're going to get goals and score goals, because playing for draws isn't going to work when we get to a World Cup. It's not going to work when we get to, the Olympics. We need to score goals and we need to find a way to do it. So playing, I think what our best game, again, which was the first game against Mexico, we played 3 at the back. We conceded the fewest, and I feel like we had some good chances with that one. And then we went to 4 at the back, and then we went to 5 at the back for the USA game. And we conceded more and more goals the further we went back. So I don't know if focusing on defense is conducive to us being good at defense. I guess it opens us up for more shots on target, because we've kind of left that midfield and front line a bit bare, but by stacking the defense, it gives them the opportunities to run at us and shoot at us. And obviously the opportunities to score more. Obviously, you had like Rose Lavelle score an absolute worldie. I don't know what you're supposed to do about that. That's just, pure talent and skill. But yeah, some of the other ones was just, I don't know, our gaps were too big. I think, yeah, I guess that's where you learn from. But, I'd like to see us play more of an attacking game and try to be a bit more creative and a bit more brave and try to score some more chances, because I just don't really see where we're going to get our goals from at this stage.
See, the bang opposite, though, is when we go and we play in the Oceania teams, and a lot of them are getting better, and you're not getting quite the thrashings anymore. But that's kind of the opposite, right? Because we get like concerned of, what's happening with us getting smashed 6-0, but we also regularly smash other teams 6-0. So we are getting attacking practice and goal scoring practice. The problem is when we've got that big issue of like the very talented teams or the middle talented teams managing to score them. But we are actually playing the opposite of these games where we're getting smashed. So it's the middle ground we've got to try and push. And preferably in New Zealand, please. We've had 2 games in New Zealand since the World Cup. It is shocking. I know some of it is like a city or a state wanting to host, and they actually spend a lot of the money that makes that happen. But like, how can we not like put up, like they could play at either like Mount Smart or somewhere like that. It just blows my mind that as much as it's expensive to hold these, that we just have dropped the ball. Absolutely shocking. On that note, and I'm preaching to the choir here because I feel like people who listen to this podcast, they get it. Like, we want to go and see our ferns. Either way, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time. Ngā toa.